Hello people! Today we're going to be doing a set of peppermint nails for Christmas. Starting with a medium length square tip and some red polish. I will have all these polishes or all my materials listed in the description. But we're going to go ahead with that, and after the two nails will be red, the pinky and the thumb, and the rest of them will be white. Now I gotta apologize ahead of time. There's a lot of extra craziness in this video and kind of the last one. My dad's not doing real great, so my mind is a bit frazzled. He's going to have to go in on Tuesday now for a second risky surgery, and he just had one like a month and a half ago. So my brain is like all over the place, and I'm having trouble focusing. Hence the reason I'm making extra mistakes, I think, lately. But we got one coat on, and when I am happy with that, I will give that a 60-second cure. And bam, we're ready for the second coat. Same thing. I have sped these sections up on here a bit to get through this part quicker. I know everybody's probably done candy cane nails already, but I hadn't done any yet, so I thought I'd do a set so I could have some for my website. FYI, this set will be available for sale on my website if anybody's interested, along with pretty much all the other ones that you see me do. You want to go with thin coats, especially on the white. Now you'll notice I didn't put a second coat on the middle finger because we're going to marble that one, which we're going to start right now. And this time for marbling, I'm going to use the stripe method. Sometimes I do it like this. Sometimes I just put a bunch of dots on there and swirl them together. There's all different ways to do it. But I ended up making quite a bit more of this than I really needed for the two nails that I'm going to marble. So I probably should have gone with the other method, but that's alright. And then I'm going to use a little tiny bit of silver. And then I will get a dotting tool and I will just gently swirl these together. You don't want to do too much because then your colors will get all muddy. Now I'm also realizing as I was looking at that, I realized that's going to be way too much red on that one end. It needs more white. So I will just go back and add a little bit more white to the bottom. And then I managed to get red on my brush, and I gotta clean that off before we go back in the bottle because we don't want to contaminate the colors. And give it a little bit of a re-swirl on the bottom part. And then we're ready to go, sort of. At this point, I got my ombre brush to go, and I'm going to pick up some of the polish, and then once I pick this polish up, I'm going to realize, oh crap, I forgot to do the blooming gel or base coat, which is what I normally use for this. So now I'm going to set that aside. If you don't have blooming gel to put on there, you can do what I do and use a base coat, as I don't have any blooming gel for that. Just put a thin layer of base coat on your nail, and it will work the same way as the blooming gel does to slightly disperse the whatever polish I'm going to put on there. Okay, now we're ready to put the marble on there. Okay. And I will just gently float this over top in whatever kind of way I'm going to do it. Totally up to you. You can make it swirly, you can make it straight. And I will just keep adding on wherever I want to put it until I'm happy with it and I've got full coverage going on there. And then I realized there was a couple little bits on the corner there that did not get polish on them. It looked weird, so I'm just going to smooth those out. And then I will set that aside for a bit. Don't cure it yet. I'm going to let it sit there for a minute or two and disperse, and then we're going to do the other one real quick. I'm going to do the same thing. Like I said, I don't have the blooming gel, but I suspect that it probably disperses the polish a little bit faster than the base coat, but the base coat does still work. And now I am going to take a lip-free wipe and I'm going to just really gently blot along the edges of these to get some of the excess off where it's all going to run over to the side, because we don't want to have any wrinkly stuff when we cure. And I will set that aside. We're not curing them yet. I'm going to go back and blot this one. And it's a good thing I had my gloves on because I've already got red polish all over my gloves, which would have been on my hands, causing another breakout. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that same silver, just a tiny bit, and my detailer brush. Whenever I find it. And I'm going to go back over these, and I just wanted a little smidgen of silver in here. I didn't want a whole lot, so I'm just going to make some really skinny little lines of silver in some random places. It doesn't show up very well on camera, but trust me, they're in there. Okay, now I'm going to put the silver in the other one, and then once I do that, they will be ready to cure, which I will do for 60 seconds. think I'm done. Nope, guess not. Okay, now those have been cured, and we have quickly jumped over to some gel paint from Savlin, which I got a set of 5 or 6 of these off of Amazon, fairly reasonably priced. But we're going to do the candy cane striped nails now. You know, this one was looking a little separated, so I'm going to do some mixing and stirring it up. And the top did not want to stay out of the way. Once we get that stirred up, I will put some on the palette. And then we will move on to the painting of the stripes. Now I've got just a random cheap striper brush that I got off of Wish years ago. I think there was a set of 3 of these in different lengths. I've sped this section up because it did take me a while. It's a bit fiddly. And I was warned by another nail artist, when you're hand painting these kind of candy cane stripes like this, it's really, really hard to get your spacing even and uniform. So I got it as good as I could. So, but there's, you know, obviously some of the spaces are not going to be exactly the same. But it's a candy cane, and they're not all exactly the same anyway. So, then I'm going to paint on some fat stripes and leave kind of a fat gap in between those. The next set of nails I'm going to be doing after these are going to be my own personal Christmas nails, which is going to be, we're going to be doing a donk on there, which I absolutely love those guys. So stay tuned for that. And now I've realized I don't have enough red paint, so I'm just going to scoop out some more on the brush. And the way things have been going, I'm surprised I didn't manage to stick my fingers down there in that palette and get paint all over them. And one little final bit there on the end. And I'm finishing off my edges because I think some of them didn't quite go over to the edge. And when I get done fiddling with it, I will go ahead and give it a cure. Then I'm going to move on to the skinny lines. And the reason I cured that in between is because I'm not very good at painting really fine skinny lines, and I had a feeling I was going to screw something up. And if I had to wipe it off, I didn't want to mess up the fat stripes. But I've also sped this up because this one did take me a good while too. We're just putting the skinny stripes in the middle of the white part. I was having a little bit of a shaky hand day when I was doing this, which was another reason I wanted to cure the big stripes instead of doing all of this in one go. I really had a feeling I was going to have to wipe some of it off. Luckily, turns out I didn't have to. And one more to go. Okay, now we are going to move on to the like the swirly peppermint one. Now, I apologize, this whole section is blurry and I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But and here also is where my screwed up brain right now messed up. Now I should have top coated that thumbnail before I started this part, and I did not do that. So I had made an extra step for myself I'm going to have to do later. But I know it's blurry, but you'll be able to get the gist of what I'm doing. And I have also sped this up too because it did take me a bit on here. Now you notice I'm starting from the center and going outwards. That proves to be not the way to do it. So this is a case of you're going to see me make the mistakes so you don't have to. I found later on if I started from the outer edge and came in towards the center that it gave me a nicer point in the middle instead of ending up with a big blob of white in the middle that I didn't want. But we're just going to continue around painting the stripes, and the reason I'm switching back and forth is so I can make sure I keep the even amount right. See, now I'm going to start from the outer edge and go in, and then when you get towards the center you can just lift your brush up slightly so you get a finer, skinnier point in the middle. Okay, now I've got all those on. Now I'm just going to go back and fill in the white stripe parts. So basically every other section. And once again, I'm sorry about the blurriness of this, but I didn't have any other part recorded. I didn't record me doing the other thumb. I did it off camera, so I did not have another part to show you for this section, so I had to keep it in. Now, had I done this in the right order and already had this one top coated before I started with these white parts, the white swirly parts, then I could have gone straight from the end of this to sugaring the nail and being done. But since I did it out of order, I had to go back and add in a whole extra step for myself. It created more work for myself than I needed to have. And hopefully my brain will settle down here pretty soon and I will not be so frazzled. If things go well next week, we're just going to continue on, get all those stripes filled in, or stripes, those little swirly bits, I mean. Okay, now that is done and has been cured, and I'm going to go in with the no wipe top coat, which this is the step I should have done before that last section I just showed you. And I'm going to just go in and do all of these. And that top coat that I showed you in the refill bottle is the same one that I'm using. I've just poured it into an old Beetles bottle because that's all I had to use for it. I'm liking this top coat fairly well and it was reasonably priced, so I think what I'm probably going to do is order some more of the bigger refill bottles of that, since I go through top coat like there's no tomorrow. Okay, now before curing that, I'm just doubling down, just checking that, and I was seeing something I didn't like on the end here, so I'm just going to go back and check. Make sure I got them coated all the way. Sometimes when I leave them on the rack and do it, I miss the side edges a little. Okay, when I am happy, we're going to move on to sugaring the pinky nail, which we still have wet top coat on there. And I will be getting out some fine red glitter and a tray. And then we had a little spillage incident, just a tiny one on this part. Now I got red glitter absolutely everywhere, all over my hands. Okay, now I'm ready to sugar this. And eventually, when I can get a good grip on there without dropping it, we're just going to sprinkle it over that top coat, making sure to get it all over around the whole thing. And then I will just take my finger and kind of blot the edges down to push in any of the little glitters sticking out over the edge, and then I'll give it a very fine pat on top to flatten them out a little bit more so they're not so jaggedy sticking up everywhere. And then we'll cure that for 2 minutes, and then we will take a brush and just brush off any loose excess glitter that's on there. Normally I do this over the trash can, but for filming purposes we're doing it up here. Okay, and then bam, we're ready to move on to this swirly one again. Now had I done it properly, I could have sugared that white on the white before it was cured, and then we would have been completely done. But now we have to have this extra step in here where I am going to take some top coat, and this bottle here was almost empty, so I'm just going to pour a little bit of it out, and then I'm going to go over all of those white parts with the top coat. Now you'll see how this is the thumbnail that I did off camera, and you'll notice when you can see the top of it again how much of a finer area it is in the middle where all the points kind of come together. It looks a lot neater than the one that I did where I started from the middle and went outwards. So if you guys are going to do a swirly design like that, make sure you start from the outside and go in. You'll get a finer looking, more nicer look in the middle. This was the first time I was doing these swirly kind of designs, so I was learning as I went. And now I've done all the things wrong, so you guys don't have to. You can do it right the first time. You want to make sure to get all of the white area covered, because when we sugar it, we want to make sure it sticks to all that white. And since I knew I was going to sugar these, that's why I wasn't super concerned if a little bit of my white is slightly uneven. looking color-wise. If I were going to leave them plain, I would have been more careful to make sure the white had good coverage on all of it, because it was a little thin in some places. And I was trying to make sure there that I got it all the way to the center part. And then I went back and decided to take some of the top coat off of the part. On some places I got it on there a little thick. It didn't need to be on there that thick. And I'm just brushing some of it up towards the center more. And then I'm going to hold it upside down to let some of it get back away from the edges and into the middle. Then we're going to be ready to sugar with the white as soon as I get some working area. Now I just went with the plain white glitter for this, not the iridescent stuff, and not the embossing powder that I sometimes use. You know, right about in here, you can't see what happens, but when I was shaking that around and trying to get a better grip on it, I ended up spilling a whole slew of it out there just off camera to the left. Yet again, more spillage. But we're just going to sprinkle this on the same way we did with the red ones. You could also do it with embossing, with clear acrylic to do an embossed look if you didn't want the glitter or sugar on there. Having a heck of a time gripping that with my gloves. They keep getting stuck underneath there and I couldn't move. Yet another reason I hate wearing these gloves. It's hard for me to maneuver with things with them on because the ends of them get stuck. I'm going to shake off a little bit. I don't show it, but I would have pat that down gently like I did on the other one and give that a 2-minute cure. And now we're moving on to the marble nails. I'm going to get out my gem glue. And then I got these cute little candy canes that I got off AliExpress. We're going to put some of these on the marble nails. And I'm going to put them on in a heart shape. So I'm going to have one of them is going to be upright, the other one's going to be flipped over. And that's the shape we're going to go with. Now once again, I am lining them up on here the way I'm going to want them to be on the nail, so I can get an idea of the size of it and see, you know, how big to make my lines with the gem glue. And if I can look at it right next to what I'm working on, I can stick to the same size pretty closely. But we're going to put a heart-shaped gem glue line on there. And you can't really see the glue all that well, but it's on there in a heart shape. And then we're just going to pop these guys right on there. And then the other one. I did fill around with these for a little bit to get them lined up exactly the way I want them and get them centered. eventually here, we're going to get these all lined up the way I want, and then I will give them a 60-second cure. And I did not get my normal ending shot that I like to do with all of the set on the nail stands. I don't know what happened with that, but this is what the finished set looks like now. If you like what you saw, and please give me a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you very much for watching.